Welcome to Radio KAL, the Superman podcast, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. This is show number 97, released on January 31st, 2013, actually January 30th, 2013. My name is Steve Eunice, and joining me is my good friend Scotty V. Hey Scott, Happy New Year.
Hello, and Happy New Year to you as well, sir. A month late, but nevertheless, just as important to say.
Yes, I mean, it is our first podcast of 2013. 2013, the year of Superman, we're calling it. Superman's 75th anniversary, as well as obviously the release of Man of Steel. We can finally say it's releasing this year.
Ah, I love it. And I love the new name you've come up with, the Year of Superman. I like that.
But it has been an interesting month and a bit. We recorded our last podcast a week early at the end of December, for obvious reasons, with the festive season and people going away and things like that. So we've got just over a month of stuff to cover, and there's been quite a bit in this new year already for Man of Steel. Warner Brothers are wasting no time in ramping up the promotions and the material that they're releasing, and magazines coming out left, right and centre with covers and articles and new images. So it's exciting times.
It is exciting. I feel the same way as I did when Superman Returns was in its marketing stages, and at that time I really did feel like there wasn't enough going on. But anytime something would come out, I'd be lapping it up like a dog. I mean, I just just couldn't get enough, and then here we are again, and everybody's saying let's hope this does really well, because who knows what'll happen next if this one does ends up the way Superman Returns did and it's not received well or whatever. What will we get next, and how long will it be until the next Superman film? But I rather just enjoy the ramping up and getting there and seeing it, and then I expect it to be successful. But I mean, rather than be negative and worry about what if it doesn't, I'm expecting that it will.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty successful. Hopeful and remaining positive. I've liked what I've seen so far. We found out this month that the movie will get a PG-13 rating as expected. I think most people were, thinking that it might get that rating. Superman Returns, I believe, had the same rating, and it's not a bad thing.
I think it's kind of normal nowadays with superhero movies. If you look at any of the latest superhero movies released over the last almost 10 years now, they're all PG-13.
Yeah.
There's a lot of destruction. There's a lot of action going on. There's a lot of tenseness happening. And much less than a PG rating, obviously, we'd be getting into the area of being a little too golly gee, and not enough really intense, and I think that's what we want. So I think if it were PG-13, I think that there would then be the question of how could it be PG when every other superhero movie, and of course everybody knows that Avengers was widely received as a movie you could take your kids to, and it was kind of light, but it was also PG-13, and there was some really intense action scenes going on in there. So I think it's completely normal, and I also think that it's, as you say, it's a good thing.
What would be the rating above PG-13 if it was, say, dark or more serious?
Well, the next one to come would then be R, so I don't think that we could...
You don't have anything between PG-13 and R?
No.
Wow.
For us, that's where it goes to. And the other thing that's interesting about PG-13, and I've been hearing a lot of these writers kind of injecting their own opinions into the announcement that it's going to be PG-13, is that now we can hear Lois Lane have a potty mouth. The truth is that they in PG-13 ratings they are allowed one F word, but I really don't expect there to be one in Man of Steel.
Here in Australia, a PG-13 rating is probably equal to a M rating, which is M stands for mature audiences, and that pretty much means that anybody under 15 can go see the movie without supervision of an adult, without supervision of an adult, mature audiences, but we have a rating above that, which is M15 plus, which means it's only for people above 15 years and over, and then we have R as well. So But PG-13 rating equates to an M here in Australia, and I think it's a 12A rating in the UK, is on a similar par with that. But the MPAA, which is the Motion Picture Association of America, gave it a PG-13 rating for intense sequences of sci-fi violence, action and destruction, and for some language.
Some language. Yeah, I mean, when you have that kind of destruction going on, and when you have people being thrown left and right and things crumbling down around you, it would probably be considered unrealistic and unbelievable if people were just like, oh boy, this is terrible. So I think that those type of scenes are going to be intense, and there's going to be some language, as you say, and of course with a parental guidance suggestion of 13, that kind of means that you have to be 13 or older to come in without a parent, but I don't really think that they enforce that. It doesn't become really enforced until it's R, and they actually, for a while, were asking for IDs for our movies here in America.
There you go. So that's pretty good news for Man of Steel fans. The PG-13 rating means that it will be accessible to young audiences, and Superman should be a character that that children and young people should be able to go see. But by the same token, we don't want it to be a kiddie film. We want it to be, something that adults can also enjoy, and so I think that's probably right on the money there.
I agree.
Now, of recent times, as far as the end of January, we got a magazine cover for the Empire magazine, the UK-US edition of the March 2013 edition of the magazine. Features a Superman cover, a Man of Steel cover, Henry Cavill in a pose we haven't seen him in before, standing almost side on, looking very intense. And there are some internal photos in the magazine of Russell Crowe as Jor-El and Michael Shannon as Zod that we also haven't seen before, and a lot of buzz about this edition of the magazine.
I really love Empire magazine. I've always liked it because it always has these type of photo spreads and these inside looks at movies and pictures you haven't seen before. And, of course, with a Man of Steel cover, it doesn't really get much better than that. And this shot of Henry Cavill sideways standing is very serious, very cool looking. I like the pose. I like the way the suit looks. What's interesting is I guess that there's two versions. One's a U.S. version, one's a U.K. version. I think the U.S. version has words all over it, which is kind of annoying. But if you look at the two pictures, the version without the words on it is kind of subdued in color. It's much darker, and then the other one is brighter, has the familiar bright blue and red that we associate with Superman in general, that everyone is complaining isn't going to be on this uniform and isn't going to be in this movie. And then the other one is the much darker one that those same people are complaining is too dark for Superman. So I'm wondering why the two different releases of the same photo look different color-wise, and which one we're actually going to get in the film.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think it's a special edition cover. I don't know if it's necessarily one US, one UK, but I think the special edition cover has the no words on the cover other than Man of Steel and the Empire logo, obviously. But you're right, it is a more muted version of the picture. Whether or not the one with all the words on the cover, which is brighter, is maybe photoshopped a little bit, which they tend to do on magazines to lift colours and lift the highlights and shadows and things like that. I don't know, but again, the picture itself, the movie itself, will go through a certain filters will be put onto the raw footage to enhance the picture or give a certain look to each scene. That's a normal thing they do as well. So. It will be interesting to see what the final version of the film looks like and how the costume looks under certain lighting in certain scenes. But as for this Empire magazine cover, I'm impressed. Sadly, the Australian version of the Empire magazine March edition is a totally different cover altogether. It does not have Man of Steel. I don't believe it even has the spread on Man of Steel. So obviously the Australian editions of these magazines are different to the UK-US ones, which I was pretty thrilled to get a subscription 12-month subscription for Christmas from my wife for Empire magazine. So hopefully they put that article and that those photos in the upcoming edition for the Australian version of Empire magazine. But for UK, US fans, it's available on newsstands now, I believe.
Very exciting. I'm going to get myself a copy of that.
Cool. Now, there's been a lot of rumours around Man of Steel as we wait for the film to be released in June. And one of those rumours came from the not always reliable source of IMDb as far as upcoming films are concerned. Don't get me wrong, IMDb is a great source for existing movies that are already out, and they have great cast listings and all the different trivia and the complete listing of everything you want to know about each of those movies. But for upcoming films, I find that it's sometimes unreliable. There's a lot of misinformation sometimes posted for upcoming films when there isn't an actual source that they can rely on for that detail. But one of them that came out this month was the rumour that instead of a male Jimmy Olsen, we're going to be getting a female Jenny Olsen.
That is true. Now, as you were saying about IMDb, I don't even know who edits these things. Like, I've been told over the years that Wikipedia can be edited by anybody. Yeah. And you can go in there and put in anything you want.
True.
So if you can go in there and put in anything you want, then anybody could be putting in anything they want, which means who the heck knows what anything means. However, being that this actress is listed as Jenny Olsen, to me, obviously is going to spark a lot of rumors. It's going to spark a lot of articles, a lot of bloggers, a lot of people with complaints, with excitement, with different things going back and forth. But all that means is, if true, there's a woman playing a character named Jenny Olsen, which could mean anything. She could be Ann Olsen from the Olsen family, or she could be replacing Jimmy Olsen. But to jump right to they're changing Jimmy Olsen to Jenny Olsen seems like a leap that isn't necessarily all that logical yet.
No, true. Like you said, it could be a sister, a mother, an auntie, and a cousin. Could not be related whatsoever, and there might not even be a person called Jenny Olsen. We don't really know at this point in time. We can see what appears to be the actress who is said to be playing Jenny, and that's her name is, I'm just looking it up now, Rebecca Buller, and she appears to be the woman running alongside Perry White, as played by Lawrence Fishburne, in a very quick snapshot that we see in the trailer for Man of Steel, as a building collapses behind them, we guess in the middle of Metropolis. And from a still frame of that scene, she appears to have a lanyard with an ID card hanging off around her neck. Whether or not that means she's, maybe an intern or maybe a visitor or something for the Daily Planet. It's speculation at this point in time. IMDb lists her as playing Jenny Olsen. We know for a fact that Rebecca Buller is in the movie. It is her in the scene. There have been other websites. She's been in a lot of theatre productions, and one of the profiles on a nexttheatre.org has it listed as the fact that she's a cast member of Man of Steel. So, but whether Jenny Olsen is a replacement for Jimmy, as you say, is a bit of a leap in logic at this point in time.
Well, you forgot to mention that, of course, in the scene that you're talking about there in the movie, she's wearing a bow tie, carrying a camera, and has a Turtle Boy backpack.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. But that would be interesting. That would have. Then the logic would be you could connect those dots. But
might have sealed it then, yes.
That's right. But at this point in time, if she is Jenny Olsen, she's not necessarily a replacement for Jimmy. She may be a precursor to Jimmy.
Exactly.
But the other rumours that circulated around Man of Steel was the fact that there may be, and from what we understand from Jim Bowers of capedwonder.com, who's a good friend of mine and of the website, the Superman homepage, has given us lots of information and images over the years. He tells us that there is going to be a cameo by a classic Superman actor. There is going to be a cameo by a classic movie actor in Man of Steel, a classic Superman movie actor. Now, he says that it could be from anyone alive or dead who appeared in any, but not all, of the Superman movies from 1948 to 1987. So that includes the serials, Mole Men, the 4 Christopher Reeve movies, and the Superman the Richard Donner cut. Could be somebody from any of those, but not necessarily all of those, and will appear in the Man of Steel as a cameo.
So this isn't all that unusual. I mean,
no, it's not.
Other movies have done this. I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, that's really disappointing because they've said that this is going to be cut off from every other version of Superman we've seen on screen, and now they're going back on that, and they're going to have people in it from before, and how is this a separate thing? But a cameo, a guy walking by, a guy waving, a guy saying hello, a guy picking up his mail, Jim Lee springs to mind, being in every what is it, Marvel movie?
Yeah, not Jim Lee. You mean Stanley?
Stanley, yeah, sorry. Being in every, obviously, fans know that he's Stan Lee. They're looking for it. They see it. They kind of look at each other and laugh. They pat each other on the back when he shows up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that, that's Stan Lee in every movie.
No.
I don't know.
Like with the first Hulk movie when Lou Ferrigno appeared as a security guard opening the door on the building. That is a cameo of a classic Hulk actor, but he's not. It's not saying that this Hulk movie is connected to that TV series.
That's exactly correct.
So if, say for instance, one of the people is saying that Annette O'Toole is the voice of one of the women in the trailer that says, my daughter was in the bus, she saw what Clark did, that may be Annette O'Toole's voice. I don't personally think it is, but if it was, that's not saying that this movie is therefore connected to both Smallville and Superman 3 just because Annette O'Toole was in those movies and in that TV series. It just means that this is a nod to Superman fans as an in-joke, as a tribute to honour the previous versions of the films and say, hey, here's a bit of an Easter egg for you guys who know who she is or who know who this actor is. It doesn't mean that this film is connected to those previous films or TV shows. Just like when Jack Larson played Bibbo in Superman Returns and Noelle Neal played the old lady in the beginning of Superman Returns. It doesn't mean that Superman Returns was connected to the George Reeves TV series. It just means, hey, we're paying tribute to that past incarnation of the character.
Plus, a lot of the fans like to see that sort of thing. If you've been a fan of Superman or whatever movie it is you're going to see, and that movie has had past incarnations on TV or on film, it's nice to see that, to say, oh, I remember when I used to like that character, or I used to like that actor, or I used to like that film series. It's nice that they're honoring this person and honoring what I used to love, and as we're moving forward at the same time.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that was the War of the Worlds movie with
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. At the end, the old couple that greet him at the door as being the parents of his wife or whatever were actually the original couple from the 1960s or 1950s version of the War of the Worlds that was a movie. So that was, again, a cameo appearance by actors who have been in a previous version, but not necessarily connecting it to that previous version.
Very nice to see. I like when they do that, so I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Whomever it is.
But, whoever it is, we don't know. There's been, quite a few, speculations about theories about who it might be. One of the theories was put forward by Superman Javi Oliveras. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's a Spanish website, a Superman fan site, who looked through some of the footage that was shot during the on-location filming in Chicago for Man of Steel in 2012, where Henry Cavill is riding a push bike through the streets of Metropolis, and they noticed a person on the side of the street who appears to be wearing what Christopher Reeve wore as Superman in Superman 3, specifically, the three-piece brownish suit with the fedora hat and the brown leather suitcase by his side, and a person who appears to be wearing the same suit, the same get-up, appears to be on the side of the road there beside Henry Cavill's push bike.
I watched this footage, and it looks like the actor portraying this individual wearing this three-piece suit has some of the same mannerisms as Christopher Reeve had when he played Clark Kent, wearing a similar outfit walking down the streets of Metropolis. However, in that being what it is, I think that yes is kind of a nod to that. It's kind of an in-joke, which these movies tend to do, as we were just discussing before. But I would not count that as the celebrity Superman actor that is going to appear in the movie, because that's kind of a goof on that whole look. That's not an actor from another movie playing an actual role. That's just a guy strolling down the street that happens to be dressed like Clark Kent dressed in the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. So my opinion would be that would not be this famed cameo that we're being told about.
Well, Jim Bowers did say alive or dead, so it could be a CGI Christopher Reeve.
Possibly, but it does look like an actual. I mean, that's footage from the street there. You can see the cameras and they're actually filming right there. So that would mean that they had already had a CGI'd Christopher Reeve somehow in that raw footage, and they went to the trouble of putting him in there before releasing it online, or whoever found it or whatever happened. Unless, of course, you're saying that they're going to that was just a place card and they put that person there, and then they're going to CGI Christopher Reeve into the suit after the fact, which is possible.
Yeah, they may digitally place his face on the physical body of that person, which obviously, like they've done in Star Wars, when during the fight scenes, when Christopher Lee was, doing the whole lightsaber fight and jumping around, and obviously it wasn't Christopher Lee because he's an old man, but they later on digitized his face onto that physical person so that it appeared to be Christopher Lee in that Star Wars movie.
Yeah, they can do just about anything they want now. So yeah, in later editions, that could certainly be some sort of Christopher Reeve cameo, I suppose.
Yeah, but like I said, they're all theories being thrown out there. We don't know for a fact that any of these are going to necessarily happen. That person may not even be, maybe cut out of the scene altogether. Who knows? But it's interesting to speculate, and it's fun to have all these rumors and theories floating around out there for the fans to discuss and to argue about, and to look forward to seeing what we might actually finally see.
One I have heard is that in some scene there's going to be a television that's playing a Christopher Reeve movie. Something like that I think would be acceptable. It would be a nice nod. It would be a nice honoration of Christopher Reeve, without being too tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I think if you have Henry Cavill on a bicycle in the streets of Metropolis and he does a double take because Christopher Reeve is standing 5 feet from him on the curb, I think that might be a little bit too
cheesy,
silly, a little too cheesy, a little too goofy.
Yeah.
And kind of take you out of the story of the film. So, in as much as people would love to see something like that, I don't really think that would belong in this type of film.
No, well, they did in the Planet of the Apes movie, the most recent one. They had one of the guys in the zoo, one of the zookeepers, watching a TV in the office there, and on the TV was a Charlton Heston movie, not Planet of the Apes, but he was watching a Charlton Heston movie on the TV, obviously as a nod to Charlton Heston having been in the original incarnations of the Planet of the Apes films.
Yeah, I think something like that would be perfect. Either that, or like a Jack Larson playing bartender in Superman Returns, something like that, where the fans know it or don't know it. Some of the fans don't even notice because he's much older and looks different. But it's a nice thing to have there, and it's nice for Jack Larson to be still involved in the franchise after all this time, even if it's a separate story.
Yep, exactly. So we'll wait and see what those rumours and theories end up actually being. But we do know for a fact that Man of Steel's musical score is now complete. They've recorded it. All the artists have been in. They've been what's his name, Junkie XL or something. One of the composers who has a stage name of some type, his own professional name, has been helping out Hans Zimmer on the Man of Steel score and during the recording process, and has posted photos on Twitter of all different musicians in the recording studio. Sometimes we get to see behind them the big screen with the actual movie playing in the background. We can't actually make out too many details about what's on that screen, but obviously the movie is being played at the same time as they're recording, so that they get a feel for how that scene will play out, and Zack Snyder can sit and listen back to the music with the film footage to see how it's all going to fit together.
I've always thought it was very cool in these sort of traditional movies where it's not rock music or a rap song or something, where you actually have a big giant room where the whole orchestra is in there and a big giant screen and all the editors and the directors and everybody sit around and actually listen live as Hans Zimmer or John Williams or whoever it may be plays their ideas for what music will accompany whatever scene it is they're watching or as it goes on. And how cool it would be to be all the members of that film crew when it's finally complete. And when the whole movie is sort of complete and you sit down in that live room and the orchestra plays live, along with it to kind of ramp up the excitement and the drama and the emotion with all that music being there. And then, before it's actually recorded and inserted into the film, how interesting it must be to be a part of that whole process.
Yeah, it would be interesting to sit in on there and hear that as it happens. But it's good. That is one facet of the film that we really haven't got any idea on. We don't know what Hans Zimmer is doing with the musical score for the movie. We have heard interviews where he said it's a long theme, which I think is good, where Batman's is all kind of a bit short, sharp types of sound sequences. He's got a long theme for Man of Steel. He's got big shoes to fill. Obviously, the John Williams score is a classic. It's so well known, and it's so ingrained in people's heads as far as being a Superman piece of music, that Hans Zimmer has a big task ahead of him to really create a soundscape that will befit the character.
I don't personally believe, and I've had discussions with fans of the Nolan Batman franchise or the Spider-Man franchise. I'm a fan of the Spider-Man franchise, but I don't believe that there has been a hummable theme song since for a superhero since Superman. I don't think that anybody remembers the Spider-Man theme song, or anybody remembers the new Batman theme song. The Michael Keaton one kind of has that. You have that melody that you can kind of sing, but it doesn't last very long. It's not it doesn't really go anywhere. Not too much happens with it. So, and they may not go that way with this movie because it doesn't seem to be the current trend to have an Indiana Jones theme in your movie, or to have a theme of the Empire when Darth Vader's walking down the bridge of the Star Destroyer. That doesn't seem to be something that movies go for very much anymore. But maybe Superman can bring that back with a whole new theme and a whole new soundtrack. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it is going to be a very interesting thing to listen to. We won't really probably get any preview of it until another trailer comes out. We don't think that there will be a trailer with the Super Bowl. A lot of people were speculating whether or not another Man of Steel trailer would come out with the Super Bowl, which is something that they tend to do with big blockbuster films that are being released around the middle of the year. But there's been no announcement in regards to that, and a lot of the commercials and TV spots for the Super Bowl have already been announced, but nothing for Man of Steel that we know of.
How unfortunate.
But that may surprise us. It may be something that is not, is being kept under wraps.
That would be fantastic. I think I've said in other podcasts in previous months that there's nothing that surprises us anymore. You hear, it's like you run a website that we both take part in month after month and week after week, where our whole purpose is to find all the snippets of information that are released everywhere else and that we find and that people bring to us and that you put on there, and it's just like any other website. The whole point of the internet is to find out every single thing you can before it's even known to the general public as fast as possible, so that there's nothing hidden and nothing is secret and there's no surprises anymore. And that's unfortunate. I've always thought that that's unfortunate. Obviously, we do the whole spoiler warning thing on websites now and in magazines, and if you don't want to read more about it or whatever, but just the fact that it's all out there and And when you get to the movie, you've seen almost every character, almost every uniform. You've heard almost every song there is. You've heard all the dialogue. And a lot of times you get to a movie and go, I saw all this in all the trailers, because there's 100 trailers online. There's 100 trailers on TV. Not trailers, but short ads that have little clips of each scene and all the dialogue. And then you got the 3 big trailers and that show so many things. So I'd like it. I'd love it if there was some sort of, tidbit of something that was so secretive that just didn't come out, Yeah,
exactly. I'm with you. It's hard to be in the position we are doing what we do without, revealing spoilers and finding the spoilers. But it's what we do. It's what people come to see. And but it is. I do enjoy when I go to a movie that I have no prior interest in and I have not sought out any information from, and then I go into the cinema and come out totally surprised and blown away because I had no expectations and no previous ideas about what I was going to see, and you come out pleasantly surprised. Where with movies or characters that you are interested in, you try to find out as much as you can beforehand, and then you go into the movie and sometimes your expectations are too high and you come out disappointed, and I think that was the case with Superman Returns. We saw most of the best bits, leaked online through Bryan Singer's own, video diaries that he did, and it was just, you almost could piece together all the little bits and pieces that had been released online, and when you're sitting in the cinema and saying, well, yeah, I've already seen this part, it's just all these parts interconnected now into one big movie.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It seems like they do that a lot, especially with the bigger ones. You see so much.
Yeah, especially when you're seeking it out too. But that is as it is, and we'll still be excited to sit down with Man of Steel in June, and hopefully it surprises us with parts of the film that haven't been leaked or spoilt online. Talking about leaking and spoiling things online, the recent Toy Fair. I think it was in the UK or in Europe somewhere. Mattel had shown some of their suppliers and some of their retailers and some previews about upcoming toys, amongst them being Man of Steel toys, and they were supposed to remain offline. There were stamps across these images of property of Mattel, not to be posted, not to be revealed, not to be published elsewhere. But a French website, whether they couldn't read the English, I don't know, but they went ahead and published these photos anyway. They were quickly removed, but once you post something online, it's out there. Someone else will grab it, someone else will post it, someone else will keep it, save it, share it. Goes on, all the different social media websites, and the cat's out of the bag. And that happened with these Man of Steel toys, and a lot of the images of incomplete toys, of incomplete packaging, of just artists' impressions of some of these figures were released online, and we got a good look at some characters that we didn't even know about, and the symbol of Zod that we didn't know about, and they've all been released now through these toy figure images.
I'm kind of excited only because, and I've heard a lot of people from the opposite end saying they should be less worried about toys and less worried about exploiting children and more worried about making a good movie. And in my mind, the reason Spider-Man is so popular, the reason that the Avengers is so popular is because whenever you go to the toy store, you have a set of Hulk gloves that you smash together and they speak in the Hulk's voice, and you have a Captain America action figures, and you have the shield, and you see these commercials on TV where kids that are far too old to be playing with these type of toys have like a Captain America mask on and a little shield that's half the size of or a quarter of the size of the real shield, and they're throwing it around. And but the whole idea is that younger kids see these commercials and, oh wow, that's really cool, and it keeps the excitement for the movie up, the excitement for the character. This past summer, this past winter for the holidays, I was seeing Avengers commercials and saying, wow, Avengers came out 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and they're really making a huge push with Christmas toys and holiday toys and trying to get kids excited. And I don't even think you need, like, my little nephew is 3 years old or whatever, and he runs around with Hulk gloves on, and he talks about being Spider-Man. And I just watched a Superman movie with him the other day, The Elite. We watched. I was watching it with my brother, and he joined in, and he was asking questions the whole time. And I think that it's obviously big business wants to make money from as many people as they can, so they try to advertise to interest children. But the flip side of that is it's good for the character to get a 3-year-old interested this early, even in a movie that is kind of older skewed and kind of a little darker with Man of Steel coming out. If the kid watches it, he'll be there waiting for the times when Superman is charging Zod or making a big rescue or whatever it is he's going to be doing. And then the quieter parts that are a little more adult, he might get a little antsy, but it instills in him from an early time. And I think it happened with me when I was 3 years old when I went to see the original Superman movie. I'm almost 40 now, and I'm a crazed lunatic when it comes to Superman. I was outside putting rock salt down to melt the ice in my driveway today, and I was wearing my Superman pajama pants. And I just wonder when people drive by and they see, a 38-year-old man standing in Superman pants, if they're not going, don't you think you're a little too old to be wearing those? But the thing is that it's, it hit me when I was young, and it's been with me the whole time. And I think that it only makes sense that we want to have children interested, and the way to do that is to have toys and have exciting set pieces that you can buy and fight, have planes and, different things. And obviously the Avengers have weapons and stuff. Superman doesn't have that necessarily, but we have action figures. And it's been a long time, in my opinion, since there has been an entire aisle dedicated to Superman action figures. I've gone into Toys R Us or into Walmart or whatever, and I walk down the aisle, and a whole, sometimes 2 aisles is Batman toys and Spider-Man. And I'm like, where's Superman? And every once in a while, you come along one lone Superman thing sitting there, and no one's buying it, and it's it's unfortunate. So I really am excited about these toys being made, and I hope that they do a whole marketing campaign on TV, and then I hope there's kids running around with Superman capes on, going, "Look at me, I'm," and that's what I want to see, and I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the thing that people have to remember about these toy lines is that they create figures and attachments and accessories that aren't going to be in the movie. A lot of people are seeing, a red Superman figure or a totally blue or a Superman bicycle or a Superman motorbike, and they're going, where's the motorbike going to appear? Superman motorbike going to be in Man of Steel. If Superman's riding on a motorbike, I'm going to boycott this film. Well, these are toys and accessories that are designed to, as you say, capture the imagination of kids. They're not necessarily a reflection of the film or what's going to be in the film. So you don't know when you see these images and these snippets of leaked material about these toy lines. You don't know that they're necessarily going to be in the film itself. They're just toys that are being merchandised to younger kids, because they want to play with bikes, they want to play with trucks, they want to play with guns. These things might not be in the movie, but if you can slap an S on them and make them part of the marketing campaign for the movie, you're going to get kids playing with Superman toys, and I think that's the point.
Exactly.
Now, one of the characters, as I mentioned, was revealed. There's more Kryptonian characters than Zod and Faora in this movie. I won't spoil it here, but the Battle of Smallville Lego playset for Man of Steel has General Zod, Colonel Hardy, Superman Faora, and another Kryptonian villain who we hadn't heard about before, but is actually a name that has been in the comic books in the World of New Krypton saga. He was one of the Kryptonian sleeper agents, and so it'll be interesting to see whether or not that character is played the same way for Man of Steel, or whether they've just gone back and had a look at some of the comic book material, grabbed a name and said, that's an existing name, let's use it for another character that we're going to throw in the Man of Steel movie.
It certainly will be exciting to see. I'm dying. I mean, I see people posting all the time, can't June be tomorrow? And as much as I don't want 6 months of my life to just be gone, I'm almost with them on that.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times now that we are in 2013. We're counting down to the film. It's 5 months away. Cannot wait. But exactly, I'm with you. I don't want 5 months of my life to just rush by. But I am looking forward to the movie. Now, there are other movies beyond Man of Steel that are part of the Superman universe. The Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 2 just had its world premiere and LA premiere this past weekend, the end of January. We'll see more reports about that as our reporter, Rennie Cowan, who visited the LA premiere, will post reports for us on the Superman homepage with red carpet interviews, hopefully, and a review of the film. But Superman is obviously a part of that animated movie, which is based on the comic book version. But we do have a Superman animated movie coming out this year called Superman Unbound. And interestingly enough, Matt Bomer is the voice of Superman. And obviously Matt, for those who have been following Superman homepage for a while, will know that he was almost cast as a real live action version of Superman, unmade version of Superman Flyby, Superman Lives, one of those incarnations of the never-made Superman scripts that were floating around before Superman Returns was made, and Matt Bomer was almost cast in that role, but sadly didn't get to play the character, but now he does as the voice of Superman in the upcoming Superman Unbound animated movie.
This is another movie, as with any Superman movie, that I'm real excited about, and the fact that Matt Bomer is cast as the voice of Superman is just so cool to me because, we were just talking about little fan nods, little honoring of people that have been involved in the past, and as far as I know, I don't think Matt Bomer is specifically a voice actor.
No.
So it almost seems like the people who knew about him almost landing the role before thought it would be cool to bring him in and have him read and record him and see how he sounded, and it worked out. And I just, because hundreds of voice actors and hundreds of different people that could play this role, and why Matt Bomer? And I think it's really, really interesting and really cool that a guy who was going to play him in a live action film, who, by the way, I thought when the pictures were released and when they were talking about him and his face was everywhere on the site and everything, I thought he would have been he had a really good look for Superman. And there's actually what is that? A Japanese car commercial or something exactly. Where he's and he's in, I guess he's in the Superman Returns uniform or whatever, but it's very that was kind of tongue in cheek and kind of cool, and it was neat that whoever came up with that ad campaign, knowing that Matt Bomer was rumored to be in the running for the role of Superman, and now he's going to be in Superman Unbound based on the Brainiac story. So I think that's really fun and really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a great nod to the fact that he didn't get the part, and now he does get to play the part in a voice capacity. It is based on the Jeff Johns, Gary Frank 2008 Superman Brainiac story. Fellow cast members with Matt Bomer, I'm really excited to hear his version of Brainiac, is John Noble from Fringe, and he's an Australian actor, which I didn't know until recently. Also, Stana Katic and Molly Quinn play Lois Lane and Supergirl respectively, and they're both from the TV show Castle.
Very cool.
Now, it does get its world premiere at WonderCon Anaheim at 2013 across the March 29th to March 31st bracket. We don't know an exact date or time for the premiere of Superman Unbound, but it will be at the WonderCon Anaheim convention at the Anaheim Convention Center, taking place on the last weekend of March. So looking forward to that, and its DVD Blu-ray release soon after. Look for more details on Superman Unbound as March gets closer. But that's pretty much our movie discussions. What else was pretty big this past month? Big news.
Well, it seems that Warner Brothers has finally prevailed in the Superman copyright battle. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. It seemed to be the never-ending battle, to use the phrase. Well, obviously it's a very Superman phrase, but it seems that the never-ending battle actually does have an end, and Warner Brothers has apparently won the copyright battle, winning the rights to the Siegel side of the ownership of Superman. They'd previously already captured the Schuster rights. There will possibly be a Schuster appeal, but that is looking unlikely, as is an appeal for the Siegel side of things. What the judges decided is that a previous agreement letter that had been issued by the previous lawyer of the Siegels was deemed to be a contract, and therefore the judge has decided that Siegels and Warner Brothers will abide by that previous letter of agreement, and the Siegels will come away with a quite substantial amount of monetary rewards from that original letter of agreement, and but Warner Brothers will now own the rights 100% for the Superman character moving forward.
Well, I've been saying this for years, and obviously, no matter what side of the fence you're on, in terms of a lot of people saying it's truth and justice that Superman is supposed to stand for, and here we are ripping off a poor family who created this character, whatever. And then the other side is, well, look, Warner Brothers made Superman what he is. They gave up on the character a long time ago, and Warner Brothers took over, and he has gone through many incarnations. He's changed, almost unrecognizably at times from what he was in the 30s when these two families were involved, and also that the families themselves aren't the ones who were involved and didn't have any input and didn't have any control over what happened, even when the Siegel and Schuster boys were involved. So no matter what side you're on, the idea that over and over again two groups can come to a decision, can agree, can sign on it, can say it's cool, and then a few years later decide it isn't, constantly over and over again, just seems silly to me, no matter what the copyright laws are. And we've talked about this before, the idea that in the United States there's a certain amount of time on a copyright, and when it expires you can recapture that copyright if you once held it, or you can get your rights to it, however it goes. Legally, I'm not an expert on that, but we've talked about it before, so it is within their right to do it. But at the same time, over the years, they have signed multiple agreements. They have legally entered into contracts over and over again with Warner Brothers, and over again have gone back and said, well, we've decided after some thinking that we don't like the agreement that we signed. I mean, I think it's about time that somebody said, well, that's kind of too bad. I mean, you signed it, you agreed to it, it's fair, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, and to clarify, the 2001 letter accepting an offer put to them by Warner Brothers was not signed by the Siegels. It was signed by their lawyer, but as far as the law is concerned, that is enough. And so that was an argument going back and forth, but the Ninth U.S. Circuit of Appeals ruled back in mid-January that the letter written by the attorney in 2001 accepting an offer put to them by Warner Brothers was something that both parties had to abide by, and so moving forward, Superman's adventures can continue across all media platforms worldwide for generations to come through the hands of DC Comics and Warner Brothers.
And we all know that any minute now, thankfully, Superman's underwear will be back on the outside of his clothing, because now they're allowed to do that now because they've won this court case.
Yeah, that was another topic. A lot of people thought that Warner Brothers and DC Comics were trying to move away from the concept, or the original concept of Superman, and change him enough so that he would be a character that wouldn't have to abide by the Siegel's copyright ownership. But from what I understand, that's not the way it works. And I don't think we'll be seeing the red trunks on Superman in anytime soon anyway. He may go back to it.
They've gone to a long, it's been kind of a long setup to reintroduce the entire line of DC books and characters and relaunch the entire universe, except for Batman. Batman's untouchable. Got to leave Batman the same. Batman continued. Everybody else changed. So it seems to me that this, less than the Electric Superman of the 90s, was less related to this ongoing battle with them. My understanding is that whole change back then had something to do with DC trying to prove to the court that they have changed Superman enough and showing evidence that he goes through these changes and that there are things that happen that make him so much different from what was created in the mind of some 18 or 20-year-olds so many years ago. But now this one, again, and the launch of the entire line of DC books seems like it would have less to do with one character's court battles.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm going to touch on a subject that I know is going to raise the shackles on your neck and
how dare you
raise your blood pressure, and steam will be coming out of your ears. The fact that Cartoon Network has sadly decided not to renew Young Justice.
Dear Lord and goodness gracious me, it's a sad day is what it is.
It is. In
the Scotty V household. It's one of those things. The only thing I can chalk it up to is whatever ratings they go by on a cable network such as Toon Network, it must not be bringing enough returns to them to continue the show, because it is such a quality program. The animation is the best I've seen on television, and the characters, the depth. I've talked about this before. The stories, the way they 8 episodes early give you a little hint as to something that's going to come 8 episodes later. It's just so much more. And I love Superman, the animated series, and I love Superman, so that's my favorite thing. But it did not have the ongoing depth or the continuation or the kind of serialized nature that this one has. And maybe that's part of the problem, too. Same kind of thing with a show like 24. These networks talk about it. We're going to have a hard time syndicating this and selling it to other networks, because networks move their schedules around and don't necessarily want to have to be beholden to showing one episode after another in order so that people know what's going on. And it's not exactly like that with the Young Justice. It's not so tight that you have to see each episode in order, although it helps. But I'm not. I don't know. And of course, I'm very, very disappointed, because it's. I was disappointed when they canceled the comic book. But I also, if you go back and listen, whenever we talked about that, I indicated that I thought that might be an indication of things to come in terms of television. And I had a bad feeling when they took it off, and when that whole weird thing happened, and then they announced the cancellation of the book, that was going to be a kind of a prelude to what was going to happen with the television show. And it's very, very unfortunate, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, your prediction was right. When the comic book was cancelled, you said that it didn't bode well for the TV show. When they had that whole hiatus, what we presumed was something to do with the Milestone character copyright usage of those characters in the animated series, it didn't bode well, because you can't take a show off the air for 4, 5, 6 months or whatever it was, and then hope that it picks up its ratings again. People forget about shows. People forget about where it goes. Where they were.
Well, the same thing happened with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I mean, it was on for a few weeks, and then it was off for several months, and then it came back, and then it was off, and it took forever to get to the next season. It was years later, and if you look at those years on right on the homepage where original air dates are, the mind boggles at the way they kind of jump around from one year to the next, and people can't follow. What season am I in? Where am I at? Yeah. What's going on with the story? I don't understand. I have 2 kids that have grown up since the last season was over. I don't. So it's ridiculous.
Cartoon Network has a lot to answer for with a lot of the DC properties. The Green Lantern animated series has also not been renewed. Yet they're doing another Batman. Beware the Batman.
Well, again, of course, they're doing Batman. Batman can't be touched. He's untouchable. He stays the same. Everybody else gets a show, gets canceled, gets changed. Things get, but Batman's Batman. And, they know, I guess they know that they have a sellable property with that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to try our best to hunt down somebody at DC Nation or somebody who is in the know to find out why Young Justice has been cancelled, why after only 2 seasons of a show that seems to be well received, seems to be getting good ratings when it is on, and seems to be such a good quality product, with so many of the characters that are so well known amongst the public. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, they all show up in this TV series. It's not just about the young versions of these characters. I don't understand why it's being discontinued, why it hasn't been picked up, why it was thrown around, 4 or 5 months off the air at a time. It's very disappointing, and somebody needs to really pipe up and give the fans a proper answer, because it's just not good enough.
And I sometimes wonder if it has something to do with the whole relaunch and where we're at. And obviously, the other animated films are going on, and Superman still has the briefs, and things still look the way they used to. And we've often talked about how every movie or television interpretation of a character from another story or a comic book is really an alternate universe. It's really its own thing, and they make their own changes based on how it goes and what they want to do and what fits right for the film. So while it still is Superman or Superboy or whatever it is you're watching, it's an alternate version of what you might have been reading or what you might remember. So when people stand up and say, that's not the way it happened in the comic book, it's never going to be exactly the way it happened in the comic book. But perhaps with this the new Batman, maybe it's going to be more connected to the way he looks, the way he acts, the things that have happened in the New 52, or maybe they're trying to steer people away from the old style. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with theories, because none of the characters exist in Young Justice the way they are in the comic book. They're not the way they are on the Young Justice animated series. So we're kind of in Earth 2, or we're in Earth 5, or in Earth 97, or whatever Earth it is in where these characters are the way they were on Young Justice. So I think, and I said the same thing about the Young Justice book, it's not really, obviously it was out of continuity, but it's also not even within the same time span or universe as the rest of the 52. So I'm not sure, but a lot of these things might play into the decision to yank it. I don't know. Yeah,
well, again, we would hope somebody comes forward and says one way or the other why it happened. But
someone needs to answer to me.
Now, talking about the comics, as you did with the Young Justice book, the Superman regular comic books continue.
Have all been cancelled. They're all off the market forever now.
We will go into the Hell on Earth story in a second, because that's what's taking place within Superman, Superboy, Supergirl, those titles. But Action Comics is continuing on its own little merry way for the next couple of issues still, before it, with issue 19, comes into line with the other books. But issue number 16 of Action Comics was released at the beginning of January. January 9th it was released, and it was titled The Second Death of Superman, and it touched pretty heavily on the Death of Superman story that is from a previous continuity, obviously happening in the mid-90s, early 90s, but is still somehow referenced and part of this new 52 continuity. What did you make of that?
Well, first off, I only got as far as the title page, and I was reminded once again at how much I hate Morrison's writing. It boggles my mind every time. I don't know where we are. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know the language the characters are using. It's so strange every single time. It took me until about halfway through the book for me to realize that this was a continuation of something that was in the last Action book, and that it's still connected to Mixie, and it's still connected to the landlady, and it's just so convoluted and so just annoying to me to read it. Morrison's this big kind of celebrity writer, and everybody wants him on their products, and I have not enjoyed his gallivanting into strange new worlds. Whatever it is he's doing, I don't like it.
No, I'm with you. I when we sat down to write the notes to do this episode of Radio KAL, I looked back what comics we were going to be talking about. I had to refresh my memory about what happened in Action Comics number 16, because it's one of those things that you read and you try to follow and you try to understand, and then when it's finished you're going, that was a bit more effort than I actually really wanted to invest in reading a comic book. You got Zadu and all these other weird Kryptonian and other villains, and Mr. Triple X, and it mixes Vindicative X and all these, and it's quite confusing. It's quite hard to follow. I liked the sentiments from the characters talking about Superman's death at the hands of Doomsday, and how it resonated with them, and how but I felt cheated in that it's a lot of the stuff that Morrison talks about happened off camera. We don't know how the death of Superman fits into this continuity, yet he's referencing it. It seems a bit of a cheat.
Well, I don't know what his leeway was in terms of that. He might not know how it fits. He might not know where they're going with it, because a lot of times, and we've heard fans complain over and over again about how vague the DC brass can be in terms of what exactly fit. Well, it's let's not write it off. It all happened. We just don't know how or when. I mean, they don't exactly say it in those words, but
we'll explain
they tell
it
you
through
that
story.
Exactly, and that hasn't happened yet. And how will it happen? How could it happen? Lois doesn't know that Superman is Clark, so the whole idea of her being so brokenhearted and so emotional and so connected to him going down at the hands of Doomsday is completely different. And in this story here, they allude to the fact that the Daily Planet called it Doomsday, but they don't really say that it was a character named Doomsday. They don't really say that he fought him tooth and nail, in the middle of the street. They just kind of hint to the idea that we all knew it kind of happened, but who knows how and who knows when or why, And at the same point, as complaining about Morrison's writing, I have to say again that the artwork is just sublime in the book, and it has been from the beginning. I mean, Lois looks fantastic. I like how Jimmy looks. I like how Superman looks. I just like how everybody looks, and it's bright, and it's very interesting to look at. It's the reading that's where it comes difficult. So I don't know. And you look at, it's the same kind of thing with some of the art. I think has a hard time describing what it is that Morrison is telling him is happening. If you look at like page 22, it's just weird. Like, he's jumping on Jimmy tackles the guy, and then he turns around and he has a sword, but at the same time Jimmy's face is like sideways as if he's been hit, but the arm that's swiping past him is the arm that has a sword, so Jimmy's head would be cut off. And then in the other arm, he has a different sword. It's a different color, but he didn't have it the panel before, so where did that come from? It comes down to as simple as that doesn't even seem to be able to be comprehended. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was funny how the mummy-looking guy that Superman was fighting kind of looks like Mysterio at the end. He's got a globe on his head. He has two little pips that are on either side of his neck, floating through the air. And then in the Superman book, you got Galactus floating through the sky, Consumer of Worlds or whatever coming as well.
It's interesting how the art tries to decipher the written word. And the jumping back and forth from the 30-30 to yesterday to today to the day before yesterday to today, it kind of, it was hard enough as it was going in a linear progression, let alone jumping around.
He does that constantly, though. Yeah. It's not, this isn't the only time. It just seems like his mind is so out there that he wants to be somewhere else other than the time that he's at writing. So he's in the future, and then he's yesterday, and then he's 2 minutes before it was a minute ago, and seconds later. It's just you don't even know what you're reading. I actually enjoyed, and I'm not even a fan of the Legion. I enjoyed the Legion story much more than the main story.
Yeah.
It was simpler. But I found myself going, oh man, I want to know what happens with this guy who's trying to be the leader of the universe and is really a bad guy. And, I didn't like the art at all, in that story, but the story I thought was great.
Now, moving on to Hell on Earth, Superman number 15 was released at the beginning of January, postponed from the end of December because of the holidays and that, which most of the comics were, across the DC universe at that time. and Superman 15 carries on the Hell on Earth story. In this one, we see Lex Luthor. He's in his holding facility that has been designed by him, unbeknownst to himself, to hold himself. and Superman comes and visits with Superboy, and it's an interesting play. But once again, I feel like I'm missing a part of the story because I don't know how Lex lost half his face or his ear or whatever's happened with the side of his head, and I don't know how we got from the sniveling, cowardly version of Lex that was 5 years ago to this most dangerous man on Earth, Lex Luthor, that's been incarcerated in this high-tech facility.
Well, even in action, we were just talking about, we again see a scary kind of little girl, Lex Luthor, running from whatever's coming into the lab. Oh, get it off, Chewie, turn it off, it's scary. And then you go to this book, and he's he's a badass, for lack of a better word, and he's mouthing off to everybody, and he's super intelligent, and he's kind of impressive, and you go, well, that's Lex Luthor. That's kind of a cool, the way I expect him to be. But like you said, well, how did he get that way? And I thought I was missing something because his face is all messed up, and because he tells Superman, it's nice of you to lie through your beautiful teeth, but we all know that you came here to look me in the eye and see if you were able to complete what you weren't able to and what you so badly wanted to complete when you did this to me. Seeming to indicate that he at least thinks that Superman wanted to kill him, which he may have. Superman has, people give it a hard time whenever anybody suggests that Superman would feel better if he were able to hurt some of these people in worse ways than he does. But I think that makes him more human, and the fact that he does feel that way, he just doesn't act on it, and he knows that it's wrong, so he stays away from doing it. But the fact that we didn't see it, the idea that we don't know what it was that happened, seems like another kind of, I don't know if Morrison was supposed to get there, and he's just so all over the place that it never happened. But yeah, it's very, very strange. And I'm reading this Superman 15, and I'm thinking, I really like Superman's attitude. Talking to Lex, even talking to Superboy, he says, how did you know that wasn't going to hurt me? And Superman says, well, I didn't, but I do now. After he pulls him through the thing, it's kind of a more nonchalant kind of attitude. But he knew that if something would happen, he'd be there to save him or whatever.
Yeah, he's confident.
Yeah, and I like it. I mean, a little while later, I guess, as the story continues, things kind of get a little weird again with continuity. But with this book, I really like the way it was going, and I love the art. I like when Lex kind of talks down to Superboy and gets him to shut up, and Superman says, "Yeah, we're all impressed with your ability to intimidate a teenager. Great job." It's just, I love that.
Yeah. And then we move forward to Superboy's own book with Superboy number 16, and it's all about trying to get into the Fortress of Solitude, because as we know, at the end of Superman's book, he meets up with the Justice League, and they come to answer his distress call to head to the fortress to try to stop Hell and a misguided Kara from using the Kryptonian technology that's held within the Fortress of Solitude to allow Hell to go back in time and to a point where to save Krypton from its destruction. But in doing that, he'll destroy our universe and everything that's in it. And obviously that's, while Superman would love, and Superboy and Kara would love to save Krypton, none of them want to do that at the cost of Earth and everything, the whole universe of everyone dying. So, but Kara doesn't know that.
That sounds like it would be bad. It
does sound a little bit bad.
Yeah.
It's almost,
she obviously, as you're saying, doesn't know that.
No, she doesn't. He's conned her into thinking that Superman is so earthly that he's, no longer thinks of himself as Kryptonian, or doesn't have the feeling for Krypton as they do, and so she doesn't realize that there are, major ramifications for following through with Hell's plans. But she thinks that Superman is just naive or misguided, where it's actually herself who is naive and misguided, following along with Hell's plans. And Superboy and the heroes, along with Superman, try to break into the Fortress of Solitude to stop Hell and save the universe.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't they? They're heroes, right? I mean, they got to do that. And I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but Batman, no matter how well trained, would simply break his ankle trying to kick heavy metal objects like those robots. And they show there's a panel of Batman kicking one of these robots, and the robot is breaking apart and exploding. He's a man. In that way, he's no different than I am. I mean, I'm clearly not trained as he is, but you can't be trained to smash your foot through a metal door or robot as a human being. The strategist thing, planning to attack, being the guy who kind of directs where the other teams go. I think he should do that from a chair, from another room, from another area. Mm-hmm. But that makes sense to me. I could see that, And also in the book before, why would Luthor say to Superman that Superman is only second to him in intellect if Bruce Wayne is so great and so smart?
Yeah, true. There is a misalignment as far as the how smart Superman is amongst the different super books, which is disappointing. But speaking of Batman, while I don't always like to see him pop up in Superman's books, because Superman very rarely does in Batman's books, I quite like the interplay between Superboy and Batman in this particular comic book.
Yeah, I actually don't mind. I mean, I didn't mind Batman at all. He's fine. I just think that they stretch his, the terms of his humanity, the idea of what he can do. He's doing things that Wonder Woman is doing.
Yeah.
In here, and I mentioned it in 15. You have inconsistent character. In the previous book, Superboy's kind of wide-eyed and amazed that he's hanging out with Superman, and he kind of thinks he's cool and he's really respecting. And then suddenly he says, "Even though I'm not his biggest fan, I'll go in there." And it just seems like now we're back to the Superboy who he's been in the Superboy books, but then in the other book he's a different character. His appearance in the art, he looks much younger. He looks much more wide-eyed. He looks more fresh. He looks more, kind of green. And then suddenly he's here and he's this, jerky kind of criminal type, street kid, tough guy who is now, mouthing off to everybody, and it continues as we go into Superboy year one or whatever it is, first anniversary annual thing. And is the alien on the final page, is that the horn playing guy from back in Action 1? Okay.
It is, yes. You would have to, it was a long stretch to draw that line between them, but it is the same horn blowing character, and it was interesting to see that there is almost like something else going on that is not necessarily part of this story, but is, I guess, a parallel story that's, going to be taking place as well.
Yeah, weird.
Now, Supergirl number 16 continues on the story of the Hell on Earth, but we see Supergirl's story, like her side of things going on, and we see her battling with the Flash, who is able to vibrate through the walls of the Fortress of Solitude, and their battle takes them through Superman's intergalactic zoo, and there's, it's quite a frenetic battle between the two of them, and it's interesting to see Supergirl's perspective on just what's going on and why these characters are trying to stop her and stop Hell's plan to return to Krypton.
Well, it completely makes sense to me from Supergirl's point of view, even though I think her story is still convoluted and what's going on with her being older than Superman and coming in suspended animation and all that. But that's what they decided to stick with and go with. So from her point of view, she just left her home, and someone's telling her it's been destroyed, and then someone else is saying, well, I can save it, and if you help me, it'll be that much easier, and we can make sure that we get it back to a time where your parents are still alive, your friends are still alive, and you can go back there and live back there. What I don't understand is everybody's seemingly nonchalant attitude toward having powers. Like, I don't want these powers anyway. I'll just go back to my planet and be no one again, which I would never do. I mean, yes, I'd save my planet, but I'd be like, sorry, can't live here with you guys because I'm awesome on the other planet, and that's where I'm gonna stay. And I'm not sure how hard she's hitting the Flash, but in that first panel where she comes from behind, I'm assuming she's flying through the air. His back is so bent that it looks like she smashed him at her super speed. And again, Flash is just a guy.
Yeah, but doesn't he say something like, lucky I vibrated at the last minute or something like that?
Well, he says that later, which I was glad that he said when she knees him in the face. And I'm like, again, his face would be gone. And then the very next panel, he says, thankfully, I was able to vibrate my face at the last minute, or your knee would be a part of my skull right now, which I like. But then later, they go into the animal enclosure, and she says, there's no way we can fight all of them. I have to lead the Flash away from here. Why? I mean, 2 pages earlier, she was trying to put her knee through his head. She was going to destroy him. She was going to kill him. She was going to murder him. And now suddenly she wants to save him from a stampede of animals that he could run away from on his own anyway. It's inconsistent. And I know that she's not exactly Superman. She doesn't exactly have the human morality, ethical ideas that he has, and doesn't really have the connection to other human beings. But she's either someone who's going to kill for what she wants or she isn't. And 2 pages earlier, she was going to put her leg through the guy, and then suddenly she's saying, I have to get him out of here because there's no way we can fight them all. So I was confused by that, and I like some of Flash's dialogue here as well. Superman has a zoo. Superman has a dog. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, it was. It was very Flash-like dialogue, which I quite liked. Then you mentioned Superboy Annual number 1, and this is from the perspective of Superman and Superboy in this pocket dimension where, as we saw at the end of the previous story, they'd both got in front of this beam of this a teleporting type of prison where they were sent to parts unknown and disappeared from the Fortress of Solitude to find themselves in this pocket dimension where it kind of alters all the time and their powers are diminished and altered and changed, and it's a bit different for them. They've got quite a battle on their hands, but Superman takes it in his stride, and is on point and ready to take on whatever has to be done and to get back to the fortress as quickly as they can. And Superboy is a bit taken aback at Superman's attitude, and but it's quite good in that Superboy is the saviour of this story and gets them back to the fortress eventually through his ability to communicate with the prison itself.
Yeah, it was neat how they did that. A lot of times, and it's usually Batman, a lot of times when you have a cameo crossover into someone else's book, the cameo crossover is the one that does what needs to be done. And since this is an ongoing story, the lines kind of get blurred as to who's the star of the book, because it's a story that they're all appearing in everybody else's book each month, and they're kind of equal in that they're all involved and that they're all either trying to defeat KAL or they're involved with KAL. And so I think that it's neat that they gave kind of Superboy, who you might consider to be the less famous, less popular, less powerful character, the out in this one. They gave him the way to communicate with the planet and get them out, as you say. Yeah. I picture when Cyborg got exploded away from the thing. I picture him, when Wonder Woman says, are you okay? Are you hurt? Just my pride. Another kind of comedic line in the middle of what's going on, and then you have chaos. The continuing inconsistent character. Superman was the one making the jokes in Superman 15, and he was kind of smiling. He was tongue-in-cheek a lot of the time, and now he's giving Superboy a hard time for being tongue-in-cheek and for being sarcastic and for not being serious. It just seems like he doesn't know, whoever was writing doesn't know how it was going in the other book. So I don't know.
I guess that's always a problem with these crossover things, is that they plan out the major strokes of a story so that they can, follow on from each other, but they don't necessarily get into the nitty-gritty of a character's personality, and so I'm guessing that probably accounts for the inconsistencies in the character personalities.
Yeah. Well, when he says we might be stuck here, Superman says we might be stuck here in an unending battle forever. Shouldn't he have said in a never-ending battle? Wouldn't that have been better? And do they leave the two villains at the end of the thing on an asteroid in the middle of space with nowhere to go, no food, and no air?
Well, they were in this prison, I'm guessing, with no food, no air for so many, many, many years, and they seem to be the bane of the universe because they are so powerful, and they did fight to a standstill with Superboy and Superman in this comic, and it was only through Superboy's ability to communicate with the prison itself and send them to somewhere else that they were able to get free. So I'm guessing these two villains are not necessarily helpless wherever they are.
Okay.
All right, well, that's the comic book discussions. Although there is a comic book that is tying in with the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us, which is out at the moment. The comic book that is in digital, and the print version comes out at the beginning of beginning of February as well. The comic book the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us will be released on April 16th, and it will be available in a battle edition as well as a collector's edition. With the battle edition has a joystick with like a computer console thing that you can change the theme to a Superman, Wonder Woman, or a Batman skin. But the game is released on April 16th, as I said, for the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii U. But the comic book, which is a prequel leading up to the story in Injustice: Gods Among Us, the video game, is out now, and it tells the story of why the characters are the way they are, why in this alternate reality Superman has, become the way he is, and what has taken place. And it was quite shocking in the way the story was told, what happened to Jimmy Olsen, what looks like it's going to happen to Lois, and I'm quite interested to see where it continues from here on.
Did Jimmy become a woman and everybody got crazy about it?
No, Jimmy was shot.
Oh,
Killed.
Boy. I'm not sure which is worse, becoming a woman, like having
Careful.
Having your manliness cut off is what I'm trying to say, and being turned into when you're not a woman, or being shot.
Yeah, by the Joker of all people. So, Injustice: Gods Among Us, the comic book, Chapter 2, Chapter 3 are out now as well. So on digital comics, the first print edition is available the end of January, beginning of February. So check that out if you're interested. The video game, as I said, will be available mid-April. All right, the only other thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to our big question segment is the Superman S-Shield evolution chart that we put together at the Superman homepage. We've seen a few charts over the years, some in recent times, trying to show the different variations the S has gone through in the past 75 years. They missed a lot. They try to take the broad strokes of how it's developed and select some of the more obvious changes, but I felt it was time that we did a real, true depiction of how it's changed in the last 75 years, pretty much taking an example from every year of the past 75 years, along with the comics, the TV shows, the animated movies, the animated cartoons, the films, the live action stuff, Bob Holiday, Broadway, all of them have been included in this massive chart that has over 140 examples to show.
Yeah, it was quite a meticulous effort put forth by you, and very interesting to look at, and lots of symbols on there. I've heard a number of people say they'd like to have it as a poster, and I know you have poster size that can be downloaded, but speaking from a printing standpoint, I'm not really sure how I could print it without having it be like on pieces of paper that I got to tape together, and but yeah, I mean, an actual poster of that would be quite nice to have. I have a shirt that has different, not nearly as many symbols, but I reminded me of that.
You can take the JPEG or the PDF file, the large version, to a print center, say somewhere like, I don't know what you have over there in the US for, you take your digital camera or your iPhone or whatever, your USB, you put all your JPEGs on that and you take them to one of those photo centers and you get, your standard size photos done. They also do poster prints of various sizes, and I'm not sure if they provide a 27 by 40 inch size poster, but that's an option if you do want to get a poster size print made. It'll probably cost you about $30, but it might be cheaper than using up all the ink in your inkjet printer.
Well, there you go, people. I know you all want that on your wall, so get to your local, I guess, Office Max and see what they can do for you.
Yeah. Now, let's move into the big question segment of the show.
Let's start with the big question.
Last month's big question was, what was your favorite part of the Man of Steel trailer and why? And our first responder, Rick Ruiz, wrote, "Hey guys, I hope you had an awesome Christmas and super New Year. My favorite parts from the MOS trailer were Ma Kent talking to Clark and a tear rolling down her cheek. This showed me how much she loves her boy, and things are not just a struggle for him, but for his parents as well. And then the takeoff and space flight. That looked really cool. Too bad we still didn't get to hear an actual Superman soundtrack for the complete package. Great job as always."
Thank you, Rick. Some nice thoughts there. You like the... obviously the tender moment with Martha, and then the more action-oriented moment with Superman taking off into space. Pretty cool.
Good news. The soundtrack is finished, as we already discussed, and I'm sure we'll be hearing that pretty soon.
George Amaru wrote, "This is a difficult question, as this is such a great trailer. The overall look of the film is amazing, and I'm very confident that we are going to get a fantastic Superman film. If I had to pick, I'd say that my favourite part would be the images of Superman in the Arctic, slowly walking over the ice and snow, and leading to that fantastic takeoff, which perfectly caps that sequence. Very nice."
I would agree with a lot of that. Hector wrote in that his favorite part was when Superman was arrested and had the handcuffs on, because I can't wait to see what happens after that.
Yeah, very good point, Hector. Nice part of the trailer as well. Chris Morgan writes, "What did I like most about the Man of Steel trailer? Without a doubt for me was when Pa Kent said, 'maybe.' It just showed the heart in the Superman story from his Earth parents and how they loved him and wanted to protect him no matter what. And Martha trying to comfort a young Clark. It's just touching what parents do to protect children. It's that area of the story I look forward to see the most. The emotion from Diane Lane showed the casting strength in the movie. And I know we've said it many times that the Donna Superman film will play no part, but was there a slight nod to the Donna fans with the flyby around Earth? It was very similar to the Reeve flyby before smiling to the camera. Just a thought. One more thing, can I say that the whole trailer was outstanding, and positivity for the trailer is just as fantastic. Keep up the good work, Steve and Scotty." Well, thank you, Chris.
Yes, I got the same feeling. I wondered if they were kind of going for that. It's a similar angle when Henry Cavill is flying through space there. They don't do the smile and nod at the camera thing, but I think maybe they took some inspiration there.
Yep.
Chris Hewitt wrote, "Hi, Steve, Scotty, what did I think of the Man of Steel trailer? Well, from the spine-chilling opening shot of Clark floating in the water to the end shot of Superman walking out from the bank vault area in front of the army, it's a fantastic trailer that doesn't show too much or too little. It's a right mix of footage with a super piece of music. My favorite part is the cape flapping in the wind and the shot of him kneeling and building force to take off into the air and flying into the stratosphere." Well
thought out comments there by Chris. Christopher Miron writes in saying, "I liked when Jonathan Kent spoke to Clark. I know a lot of people are worried that Jonathan isn't the same caring, moral kind of guy we know him to be, but I think he's still just that. I think that simply in the tone of his voice, responding to Clark with a maybe, it sounded to me more like he was singing, 'I just don't know.' I think, like any father, he is putting his son's safety first, but also knows that he did the right thing and he's proud of him for it. He's just at a loss for words." Well, I like your explanation there, Christopher.
Yes, I definitely see some of that going on as well. Billy Hogan wrote that there wasn't anything I didn't like about the trailer. Every clip left me wanting to see more of each scene and raised my anticipation of the movie. It looks different from the Donner movies, but still seems to capture the essence of Superman. My favorite part was the end, where he kneels in the snow and presses his fist into the ground. Visually, you could almost see the immense pressure Superman was exerting. And when he burst into the sky, it sent chills down my spine.
Thank you, Billy. Now, Arjun L. writes in, hello, Steve and Scotty. I guess my favourite part of the Man of Steel trailer would have to be the shot of Russell Crowe as Jor-El. Somehow he reminds me of Scotty V. Not sure why, but sure hope Russell Crowe sings his lines. Second favourite is Superman walking across the tundra. It looks majestic, regal, and if it is the big reveal of the suit and flying, it looks awesome. He's hoping you have ants in your red underpants until June 14th.
Thank you, Argent L. That was very, very cool. Mikey B sent in an audio answer once again. Let's hear what he had to say.
Steve, Scotty, it's Mikey B. Favorite part of the trailer? Boy, I mean, I got to see it not only when it was released online after that countdown, but I also went to The Hobbit just for that reason, to see that trailer on the big screen, because I knew it would look all that much better, and it did. But, I can't just pick one. I got two, so I'm going to cheat. Superman walking out of the fortress, Jonathan still talking, looking around, soaking up the sun, and taking off. And the second one is Superman flying at who I think is Zod, because I'm really interested in that confrontation. So, but that's it. Those are, I know you said pick what's my favorite, but I picked two. But there's just so much. What I loved about that trailer too was that it lived up to my expectations, which are so high right now that they are probably unfairly high for this movie. But that trailer lived up to it. So, wow. I mean, that's a good start. So, but anyway, guys, thanks for all the work you do. You guys do such an awesome show, and I really appreciate it. And I know all the other listeners do too. So thank you, and take care.
Well, thank you, Mikey. Some good thoughts there.
Very nice, and we appreciate the praise as well. Thank you.
Now, Arnie H. writes in, he says, due to your earlier recording in December, I was late in replying to the last big question. If you'll indulge me, I would still like to tell you how I listen to the show, obviously referring to our previous question before this last podcast about we asking you where do you listen to the Radio KAL podcast. He goes on to say, I very much enjoy listening to Radio KAL on my iPod Shuffle while working out at the gym. I figure everyone around me thinks I'm listening to music. Sometimes I wonder if these bodybuilders think I'm a super geek for listening to a show about Superman, but then always someone walks by me wearing an S-Shield t-shirt. That makes me smile. Just this week, someone was wearing a We Can Be Heroes JLA t-shirt. Now, if only I could get the gym to play Radio KAL on their sound system, that would be awesome. Happy New Year, guys. Keep up the great work in 2013. Thank you, Arnie. That's, that would be great.
That would be.
Fantastic.
Get them to put it in their franchise, all across the country,
Yeah,
like some kind of a package deal. You can play this in every gym you have throughout the entire nation. Our new big question,
Scotty,
is
why
how,
stop at the
yes.
Why stop at just the nation? Let's go around the world.
Oh, well, hey, I'm with you. Let's do it.
All right, now go into the new one. Go on.
Our new big question is, how do you feel about Young Justice being canceled? I personally have held my feelings inside. I'm not going to speak about it. I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not going to let anyone know how I feel about it, but I think you should tell us how you feel about Young Justice being canceled.
Yes, get involved with this new big question for the Radio KAL podcast, and you can do that by clicking on the big question button found at the Superman homepage. You can send your entry in as an email. We will read those out, or you can do like Mikey B did and record an audio answer, send that through to us as an MP3 file, and we will play that in our next Radio KAL podcast. Now, I imagine there'll be quite a few irate and upset fans at the cancellation of Young Justice. Let us know your thoughts using the big questions segment of the show.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
The super secret soundbite from last month came from the theme from the 1980 Superboy TV series, and 6 people guessed it correctly. They are Guthrie McLean, Rick Ruiz, George Emeru, David Riley, Mikey B, and Matthew Apps.
Well done, guys. Congratulations for guessing our last super secret soundbite. Let's see if those people and more can guess where in the world of Superman this new sound comes from.
Ugh, kryptonite. It hurts.
Which is why Batman keeps it in an overwhelmingly impenetrable vault at the Batcave.
Well, if you think you know where in the world of Superman, Superboy, Supergirl, whatever, the super family of characters, where in the world of those characters this sound comes from, you can use the super secret soundbite entry form to send in your answer, and Scotty and I will read out those names in our next podcast.
The Superman song of the month. I know this is some people's favorite portion of the show. Alan Shervelle, also known as Nashville's Superman, recently released his new album titled You're My Superhero. There are many Superman-inspired tracks on the album, and Alan has agreed to allow us to play Saved by Superman here on Radio KAL. To find out more about Alan, check out his website at www.supershervelle.com. That's SHERVELLE.com.
Excellent. Here is Saved by Superman.
Shot of kryptonite, they'd lose the house they'd own for life. Sorry, it's one more economic casualty. But little Andy kept the faith in that red S on his blue PJs, staring at the sky every night before sleep. In the basement were the boxes of Grandpa's junk. He found a comic book that said Action #1. Coming up the hill, just like he's done since 1938. Faster than a 45, chopped up one more set of lives, proving there's still justice in the American way. Once again, stopping evil plans. Another family saved by Superman. Comics, it was happy tears when they heard what it was worth. And the fact that it was saved was the old man reaching from the grave to help his family left behind on Earth. The man from the auction house had a shocked look on his face when Dad called up the bank and said, money's on the way. And like a flash came the Man of Steel, coming up the hill, just like he's done since 1938. Faster than a 45, chopped up one more set of lives, proving there's still justice in the American way. Once again, stopping evil plans. Another family saved by Superman. The rarest of collectibles in near mint condition was a hero for a family at the very last minute. And like a flash came the Man of Steel, a locomotive coming up the hill, just like he's done since 1938. Faster than a 45, chopped up one more set of lives, proving there's still justice in the American way. Once again, stopping evil plans. Another family saved by Superman. Saved by Superman. Saved by Superman. Saved by Superman. Saved by Superman.
Well, that's the song and that's the show for another month. Our first of 2013. Many more to come. But remember, if you do have a suggestion for the show, maybe there's a topic you'd like Scotty and I to discuss, maybe there's a super secret soundbite you'd like us to play, maybe there's a song you'd like to request, maybe there's a big question you'd like us to ask. All those suggestions can be sent to us using the KAL feedback form found at the website, or you can email us. Scotty's email address is scotty@supermanhomepage.com. Mine is steve@supermanhomepage.com, and we will endeavour to use those suggestions in a future podcast. But that's our show, Scott. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve. And everybody remember, if you need an intergalactic super alien destroyed, or if you need to kick in a robot's head, call Batman.
You've been listening to Radio KAL, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.